Close your eyes for a moment. Go on, let the world fall away. Can you feel the hush? The faint hum of something vast stirring just beyond your reach? Now imagine two luminous souls, radiant as twin suns in a twilight sky. One's a doctor who traded his cold steel stethoscope for the shimmering dust of stars, Deepak Chopra, a man who once measured heartbeats but now seeks the rhythm of the infinite. The other's a monk whose laughter, bright and unyielding, echoes through the shadowed valleys of exile, the Dalai Lama, a sage whose joy defies sorrow, whose voice carries the weight of centuries. They're sitting together, not on some sterile stage but in a space that feels alive, perhaps a room kissed by mountain breezes, or a garden where the earth itself seems to listen. Their voices weave a melody, a haunting electric blend of science and spirit, and it doesn't just drift past you, it hums straight into your bones, vibrating with questions too big to hold, too beautiful to ignore. Deepak Chopra and the Dalai Lama, what a breathtaking duo. Can you see them there? Chopra's eyes alight with that restless curiosity, the Dalai Lama's crinkling with a mischief that belies his wisdom. Their dialogues aren't just words swapped over a polite cup of tea. No, that's too tame, too small for what they ignite. They're a thunderstorm of ideas crashing overhead, flashes of insight splitting the sky of your mind, each rumble shaking loose something you didn't know you'd buried. They're a tender embrace of East and West, a meeting where the pulse of ancient mantras meets the click of modern labs, where the lotus and the microscope bloom side by side. It's a pulse, a living beat that thunders through the silence and demands, yes, demands. What does it mean to be human? Not in some abstract textbook way, but right here, right now, in the marrow of your own restless soul. Oh, I'm already trembling with excitement, aren't you? My heart's racing, my breath catching because this isn't a dry report, a dusty list of facts to skim and forget. No, it's so much more, a plunge, a free fall into the wild, messy, glorious depths of their meetings. Picture it. Chopra's voice, rich with that poetic fire, spinning tales of quantum mysteries, while the Dalai Lama's gentle cadence, laced with laughter, grounds it all in a compassion you can feel in your chest. It's chaotic and perfect, a collision of galaxies that somehow makes sense. And here's the gift, we don't have to stand outside it, noses pressed to the glass like curious strangers. No, this is a chance, a sacred invitation to wander alongside them, to step into their circle with hearts wide open, minds ablaze, souls bare and yearning. Let's go deep, deeper than surface chatter, deeper than polite nods. Let's dive into the marrow of it, not as onlookers perched safely on the sidelines, but as seekers, breathless and brave, chasing the same truths they chase. What truths? Oh, the big ones, the ones that keep you up at night staring at the ceiling, the secrets of existence itself. Why are we here? Chopra might whisper it through tales of a conscious cosmos, while the Dalai Lama hums it through stories of fleeting breath and eternal peace. The alchemy of healing. How do we mend what's broken inside us? Unfolds as Chopra links meditation to cells and the Dalai Lama ties it to kindness. And the fire of connection, what binds us to each other, to the stars, to the silence, burns bright as they trade dreams of a gentler world. Can you feel the pull? It's not just their voices, it's the space between them, crackling with possibility. Imagine the air thick with their thoughts, the scent of incense or mountain pine mingling with the faint buzz of their shared wonder. Chopra's hands might wave as he paints the universe alive, his words tumbling like rivers over rocks, while the Dalai Lama sits still, a rock in that current, his quiet presence a lighthouse guiding the flood. What does it mean to sit with such souls? I wonder, my pulse quickening, don't you? Because this isn't history or theory, it's a living thread, tugging us into the fray. This is no lecture hall droning, it's a symphony, a cosmic dance where every note matters. Their dialogues ripple out, not content to stay neatly contained, but spilling over, splashing into us, daring us to join the song. What would I ask them if I were there? I muse, half dreaming, how do I find my own melody in this vast orchestra? Oh, the thrill of it. It's messy, ideas clashing, laughter breaking through, silences heavy with meaning. It's wild, untamed questions roaming free, no fences to hold them. And it's glorious. Two humans, flawed and brilliant, reaching across oceans of thought to touch the same flame. So come with me, let's not just read this. Let's live it, chase it, breathe it, until their voices echo in our own restless hearts. Let's start with a scene that feels like a painting. No, a living canvas, brushed with the colors of eternity. February 11th, 2019, in Dharamsala, India. The Himalayan air bites crisp and cool, a tingling kiss against your skin, carrying whispers of snow and pine from peaks that loom like ancient sentinels. These mountains, oh, they're not just stone. They stand as silent witnesses, their jagged faces etched with stories older than time, watching this moment unfold with a patience we can barely fathom. And there, striding through this sacred stillness, is Deepak Chopra, a figure both earthly and ethereal, his steps purposeful yet light, as if he's walking a tightrope between the material and the mystic. Behind him trails a constellation of 45 friends, seekers with wide eyes, dreamers clutching hope like lanterns, believers humming with a faith that vibrates in the air. Can you hear it? That low buzz of anticipation, a chorus of hearts beating. Faster, each soul drawn to this collision of worlds like moths to a flame. It's electric, isn't it? A gathering not of mere bodies but of spirits poised on the edge of something vast. And then, oh, hold your breath, there he is. The Dalai Lama, that radiant, mischievous soul, stepping into view like dawn breaking. Oh, over a shadowed valley. His saffron robes catch the light, glowing fierce and warm against the muted backdrop of his modest home in exile. A simple dwelling, weathered by years, yet pulsing with a quiet holiness. The contrast grips you. This monk, a titan of peace wrapped in humility, standing in a place that whispers of loss yet sings of resilience. What does he do? Oh, you'll love this. Prepare to melt. He greets Chopra with a Maori nose rub. A nose rub. Can you picture it? Two giants of thought, foreheads pressing gently, noses brushing with a tenderness that defies their stature. A giggle, yes, a giggle, bubbling up from the Dalai Lama's lips like a spring breaking through. Rock. It's pure magic, isn't it? The sound dances in the air, light and free, shattering every wall of formality. In that instant, all the pomp melts away. No titles heavy with expectation, no borders drawn by history or geography. Just two humans meeting in the raw, beautiful, trembling now. I can't get over it. Can you? That gesture, so small, yet so immense. It's a thunderclap of truth in a world obsessed with distance. It's a philosophy all its own, a living poem carved in the space between them, whispering, no, singing. We're all kin beneath the skin. Isn't that what life keeps trying to teach us, over and over, through every fleeting touch, every shared glance? I see it in my mind's eye. Chopra, that seeker of the cosmos, pausing mid-step, his usual intensity softening into a smile as their noses meet. The Dalai Lama, his face crinkling with delight, eyes alight with a knowing that transcends words. It's as if the mountains themselves lean in, holding their breath, while the wind carries that giggle like a blessing across the peaks. What is it about such moments that strips us bare and makes us whole? I feel it in my chest, a warmth, a pang, a longing to be part of something so unguarded, so true. The Dalai Lama's eyes twinkle, those deep pools of mischief and mercy. As he speaks, his voice a soft cascade of gravel and honey. My spiritual brothers and sisters. Oh, the way he says it. It's not a greeting. It's a homecoming, a recognition that pierces the veil of separation. He's met Chopra before. New Jersey flickers in his memory like a candle flame, a past encounter glowing faintly in the recesses of his mind. Maybe other times too, lost to the public record but etched in their souls. Conferences where ideas clashed like cymbals, quiet corners where whispers wove bonds. And now they're here again, drawn back by some invisible thread, a cosmic tether that defies explanation. Every meeting feels fresh, he might chuckle, his voice a balm that soothes even as it stirs. Can you hear the layers in that laugh? The joy of reunion, the weight of exile, the lightness of a man who's learned to carry both? It washes over you, doesn't it? Like a wave that lifts and cradles all at once. Chopra nods, his own gaze warm, searching, alive with that restless hunger that's driven him from medicine to metaphysics. There's a flicker in his eyes. Recognition, yes, but something more. A spark of awe, as if he's seeing the Dalai Lama anew, not just as a friend but as a mirror, a mystery, a doorway. What is it about certain souls that keeps tugging us toward them? I wonder, my heart tilting toward the unknown, teetering on the edge of tears and triumph. Is it their light that pulls us, or the shadows they've walked through to find it? Chopra's constellation of companions fades into the background, their buzz softening to a hum, and it's just these two now, locked in a moment that feels both fleeting and eternal. Their history isn't just a backstory, it's a heartbeat, a rhythm that pulses through this encounter, pulling them together like planets in orbit, each orbiting the other yet orbiting something greater still. Imagine standing there, just off to the side, the cool Himalayan earth beneath your feet, the faint scent of wood smoke and prayer flags in the air. You'd feel it, wouldn't you? The gravity of their meeting, the way it bends time around them. The mountains seem to nod, their silent vigil unbroken, as if they've seen such collisions before. Sages and seekers, dreamers and doers, crossing paths where the human meets the divine. What does it mean to witness such a thing? I ask myself, my breath catching. To be near two souls who've dared to ask the questions I barely whisper in the dark? That nose rub lingers in my mind, a tiny act that echoes like a gong, rippling outward to say, here, now, we are one. It's not just their story, it's ours, a thread we're invited to grasp, a pulse we're beckoned to join. And, oh, how I want to, don't you, to step into that orbit, to feel that rhythm, to know that kinship for myself. The Dalai Lama settles in, and oh, what a presence he brings. A quiet storm, a force so gentle it could hush the wind, yet so potent it could crack the earth open with its truth. He sits there, his saffron robes pooling around him like spilled sunlight, his hands resting lightly in his lap, fingers tracing invisible threads of calm. Look at our world, he begins, his voice threading through the air, soft as a prayer, but piercing as a blade honed by decades of exile and insight. So much progress, machines that hum and gleam, money that piles high like mountains of glittering dust, marvels that stretch from earth to sky. Yet here we are, drowning in messes we've made ourselves. His words hang heavy, a dark tapestry, woven with wars that scar the land, hatred that festers in hearts, despair that cloaks the dawn in gray. He pauses, oh, that pause, letting the weight settle like stones in a still pond, rippling out until you feel it pressing against your ribs. Then, like a match struck in the dark, he lights a spark. But science says we're born compassionate. Our nature isn't cruelty, it's love. Oh, the thrill of that. Can you feel it? A jolt, a shiver racing up your spine. Here's a Man who's lost his homeland, whose people have been scattered like leaves in a storm, who's walked through suffering so close it must have brushed his skin like a shadow. Yet, he's not bowing to bitterness. No, he's pointing to a flame inside us all, a tiny, stubborn ember glowing beneath the ash of our mistakes. Could he be right? I'm caught, suspended between doubt and hope. Are we really wired for kindness, even when the headlines scream chaos, when the world feels like a fist clenched tight? His eyes, those deep wells of knowing, twinkle as if he's daring us to believe it, to peel back the layers of cynicism and see the pulse of love beneath. I'm leaning in, breathless, aren't you? Because this isn't just talk. It's a dare, a bold, beautiful challenge to see ourselves anew, to step out of the muck and claim a truth we've forgotten. Chopra can't hold back. He's a live wire, always has been, sparking with an energy that could light up a room or set it ablaze. Your Holiness, he exclaims, his voice crackling like a fire catching dry wood, each syllable snapping with urgency and wonder. He leans forward, hands slicing the air as if he's sculpting his thoughts into something tangible. Since we last met, science has found more. So many diseases, they're tied to inner inflammation, anger, stress, fear. They're not just feelings, they're eating us alive, gnawing at our cells, poisoning our blood. His words tumble fast, a torrent of discovery, and you can see it in his face. That gleam of a man who's traded the sterile certainty of medicine for the wild frontier of the soul. But meditation, he says, his voice lifting, almost trembling with awe. It's the cure. Wow. Just wow. Picture it. A doctor who once stitched bodies with needle and thread, now stitching souls with silence and breath, armed not just with intuition, but with studies, graphs, scans, data, that echo what mystics have sung for ages under starlit skies and in candlelit caves. I can see him now, his dark eyes flashing as he paints this vision, a world where the mind's quiet power douses the flames of rage, where a single inhale can mend what fear has torn apart. The Dalai Lama's smile widens. Oh, he loves this, his face lighting up like a child who's just been handed a secret too good to keep. Yes, yes, he says, nodding with a rhythm that feels like a heartbeat, his voice a conspiratorial whisper edged with delight. Calm the mind, and the body heals. I've seen it. Monks meditating in dim halls, their hearts steady as drums, their brains alight with waves science can measure. He's not guessing, he's lived it, sat beside those saffron-robed figures as machines hummed and clicked, proving what he's always known. Peace isn't a dream. It's a force, tangible, real. He's partnered with scientists, names like Davidson dancing in his memory, to map this miracle, to show the world that stillness can shift the very fabric of who we are. What if we could all tap that power? I'm reeling, my mind spinning, like a top. Could my next deep breath be a rebellion against my own chaos, a tiny insurrection against the noise that's ruled me too long? Their words collide like thunder and lightning, a storm breaking open the sky of possibility. The Dalai Lama lifts his gaze, those eyes now sharp with a vision that stretches beyond this room, beyond these mountains. Let's make this a century of dialogue, not destruction, he says, his voice rising, steady but urgent, a call that lands like a stone dropped into your soul. Chopra's eyes blaze. He's all in, a torch flaring brighter in the wind. Together, he might say, his tone fierce with conviction, we can raise the world's consciousness. It's not a polite exchange, not a murmured agreement over tea. No, it's a vow, a roar from the soul that shakes the air and rattles your bones. What would happen if we all joined that roar? Can you imagine it? A chorus of voices, yours and mine, swelling with theirs, drowning out the clamor of division with a song of unity? I feel it in my chest, don't you? A surge of possibility, a call to action that's not just heard but felt, a tide pulling us toward something greater, as Rumi once wrote, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right-doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there." Their dialogue is that field, a sacred, wild space where science and spirit don't just meet, but tangle and dance, a whirlwind of ideas that sweeps you up and won't let go. It's not a neat debate with winners and losers. It's a living thing, pulsing, breathing, beckoning us to step in too. What would it feel like to stand in that field? I wonder, my heart thudding, to let their words wash over me, not as lessons, but as sparks igniting my own. The Dalai Lama's quiet storm meets Chopra's crackling fire, and in that clash, something new is born, a hope that heals, a dream that dares. Oh, it's too big to hold, too bright to look away from. Don't you want to run toward it, hands outstretched, and see where it leads? Their talks don't stay small. Oh no, they refuse to be caged by the ordinary. They soar like hawks riding thermals. They spiral like galaxies spinning into being. They plunge headlong into the infinite, dragging us along with a force that's both exhilarating and terrifying. Take consciousness. Oh, what a delicious riddle. A tantalizing knot that begs to be unraveled yet promises to tangle us further. It's the kind of mystery that keeps you awake at night, staring into the dark, feeling the edges of your own mind dissolve. Chopra leans forward, his body taut with anticipation, his voice a mesmerizing blend of fire and velvet, smoldering with passion yet smooth as a riverstone polished by centuries. "Your Holiness," he says, the words spilling out like a confession. What if consciousness isn't just in our heads, locked inside these fragile skulls? What if it's the universe itself, alive, pulsing through us like blood through veins? He's channeling quantum healing now, that audacious, breathtaking leap that reality bends to the mind, that the cosmos isn't a cold machine, but a living, breathing tapestry woven with intent. I can see him in my mind's eye. Oh, can't. You! His hands gesturing wildly, slicing through the air as if he's tearing open the fabric of space itself. "Quantum physics hints at it," he exclaims, his voice rising, almost trembling with the weight of discovery. Particles shift when we look, electrons dance, waves collapse. The observer shapes the observed, your holiness. It's not just theory, it's a clue. It's bold, almost intoxicating, a heady brew of science and wonder that makes your pulse race. Could he be on to something? I'm caught, teetering on the edge. Are we not just in the universe, but of it, co-creators? Of this vast, shimmering dream? Imagine it. Every thought you've ever had, every glance you've cast, rippling out to sculpt the stars. Chopra's eyes blaze with that possibility, daring us to leap with him into the unknown, to see ourselves not as specks, but as architects of infinity. The Dalai Lama tilts his head, a subtle shift that carries the weight of 1,000 meditations. And there it is, that gentle grin sneaking out, a crescent moon breaking through clouds. It's a smile that knows things, deep, quiet things, and yet sparkles with a mischief that disarms you. "Deepak, I know consciousness," he might say, his tone steady as a riverbed but playful as a breeze rustling prayer flags. The words roll out slow, deliberate, each one landing like a pebble in a pond, sending ripples through the stillness. In Buddhism, we speak of subtle mind, beyond the brain's buzzing circuits, beyond this fleeting life, a thread that stretches past death into the vastness. He pauses, letting that sink in, and you can almost feel the air shift, heavy with the echo of ancient chants, the hum of monks lost in timeless silence. "But I say, let's test it," he adds, his voice lifting with a quiet resolve that's somehow more powerful than a shout. He's got the universe in a single atom in his blood. Science isn't a foe to be feared or a rival to be vanquished. It's a partner. A lantern held up to the shadows of mystery. If it's real, we'll see it in the lab, he continues, and then, Oh, the delight of it. A chuckle bubbles up, warm and earthy, spilling from his lips like a secret too good to keep. It's infectious, that laugh, a sound that dances around the room, softening the edges of Chopra's fervor, grounding it in a joy that feels ancient yet fresh. Oh, the elegance of it. Chopra's soaring vision, a kite climbing dizzying heights, meets the Dalai Lama's earthy curiosity, an anchor that doesn't tether but steadies, inviting the kite to fly true. Isn't that the dance of life? Reaching for the stars, then rooting them in dirt. I'm struck dumb. How do they balance such opposites with such grace, such effortless harmony? It's like watching fire and water embrace without consuming each other, a paradox that dazzles and humbles me in equal measure. My breath catches. Could I ever hold such contradictions in my own heart without breaking? Chopra might push, undeterred, his voice dipping low now, insistent, almost pleading. But don't you feel it, Your Holiness? The universe breathing through us, alive in every glance, every whisper? He's leaning in closer, as if proximity could bridge the gap between his cosmic poetry and the Dalai Lama's measured calm. You can see it in his posture, the urgency of a man who's tasted the infinite and can't bear to keep it to himself. The Dalai Lama, ever wise, might nod, a slow, thoughtful tilt of his head, his grin softening into something tender, knowing. I feel it, he might say, his words a quiet melody. But let's know it too. Oh, that response. It's a gentle hand on Chopra's shoulder, a bridge between the ethereal and the tangible, a reminder that truth isn't just felt in the soul, but sought in the world. What's truer, our feelings or our facts? I'm lost in the question, aren't you? Swept into a current that pulls me in two directions at once. Chopra's intoxicating leap tugs at my heart. I want to believe it, to feel the universe humming through my fingertips, to see my reflection in the constellations. But the Dalai Lama's steady gaze pulls me back, grounding me in a curiosity that demands proof, a wisdom that says, let's not just dream, let's discover. Imagine them sitting there, the air between them crackling with this tension, Chopra's hands still waving, painting invisible galaxies, the Dalai Lama's resting calmly, tracing the edges of a truth he's spent a lifetime chasing. What would it be like to sit between them, caught in that electric push and pull? I wonder, my mind spinning, my soul stretching, to feel the cosmos in my bones yet crave the map to prove it. Their dialogue doesn't resolve the riddle. It deepens it, flings it wide open, and oh, how I love them for it, don't you? For leaving us not with answers, but with a hunger to keep diving deeper. Then there's meditation, their shared sanctuary, a sacred harbor where their worlds don't just meet but meld, a bridge spanning the chasm between Chopra's bustling modernity and the Dalai Lama's timeless calm. It's more than a practice here, it's a living current, a quiet rebellion against the clamor of a world that never stops spinning. Chopra, ever the connector, leans in close, his eyes glinting with that restless curiosity that's carried him from hospital wards to the edge of the infinite. Can mindfulness rewrite our selves, our fates? He might ask, his voice a soft crescendo, threaded with a hope so palpable it hangs in the air like mist. He's built a kingdom on this conviction, the Chopra Center rising like a beacon in California, books stacking up like stepping stones across a river of doubt, millions of followers hanging on his every word. And he's got evidence, oh yes, studies clutched like treasures in his hands, pages whispering of stress melting under the weight of silence, cortisol levels dropping like leaves in a still autumn breeze. It's science now, he might say, his voice trembling with wonder, cracking slightly as if the discovery still astonishes him after all these years. Can you hear the reverence in it? A doctor who once charted pulses now charting the soul's quiet victories, marveling at how a single breath can shift the machinery of life itself. The Dalai Lama, nodding slow and deliberate, meets Chopra's fervor with a treasure of his own, a gem polished by decades of practice and observation. His head tilts, his eyes crinkle at the edges, and his voice, warm, weathered, steady as a heartbeat, carries the weight of 1,000 sunrises. "We've watched monks meditate," he shares, leaning forward as if inviting you into a secret circle. Gamma waves spike like lightning across their minds. Fear dissolves like mist under the sun. It's not magic, it's real. Oh, the quiet power in that. He's seen it firsthand, sat in dim-lit rooms where saffron robes glowed faintly against stone walls, where the air thrummed with the rhythm of breath and the hum of machines. He's worked with neuroscientists, names like Richard Davidson flickering in his memory, partners in a dance of discovery, watched brain scans light up like fireworks, bursts of color mapping the alchemy of stillness. What alchemy lies in sitting still? I'm dizzy with it, my head spinning as if I've stumbled onto a cliff's edge and peered into a chasm of possibility. Could I close my eyes and reshape my own story, rewrite the jagged lines of my days with the soft stroke of a single inhale? The thought swirls, intoxicating, terrifying, wondrous, and I can barely hold it. Can you? Imagine them swapping tales now, their voices threading together like strands of a rope strong enough to pull us all towards something greater. Chopra's hands move as he speaks, painting pictures in the air, guided sessions in sunlit rooms, voices soft as whispers guiding seekers to the center of themselves. "Picture this," he might say, his tone bright with enthusiasm. Hundreds, gathered, eyes closed, breathing as one, letting the noise of the world fall away. We teach presence, being here, fully here, in the skin of this moment. His words ripple out, modern and melodic, a song of now that invites you to step off the treadmill of time. The Dalai Lama listens, his smile deepening, then offers his own thread, his voice a low hum that seems to rise from the earth itself. "And we teach emptiness," he might reply, his hands resting still, palms open like a lotus in bloom, a letting go so complete that everything arises. Peace, clarity, life itself in the space left behind. Oh, that response. It's a counterpoint that doesn't clash but harmonizes. An ancient chant echoing through monasteries where Tibetan voices have rolled like thunder for centuries, bouncing off stone walls carved with prayers, filling the silence with something vast and unshakable. Isn't that the paradox? Emptying ourselves to fill with life? I'm caught in it, suspended between the two. Chopra's vibrant call to presence pulling me into the pulse of the present, the Dalai Lama's quiet hymn to emptiness lifting me beyond it, into a void that's somehow brimming with everything. Their voices weave a tapestry, intricate and alive. Chopra's modern melody, a bright thread of discovery spun from labs and lecture halls, twining with the Dalai Lama's ancient hum, a deep note plucked from the strings of tradition, resonating with the weight of countless breaths taken in stillness. I can almost hear it, can't you? A song that wraps around you like a shawl, warm and insistent, singing in unison. Stop running. Be here. Heal. It's not just sound, it's a vibration, a frequency that sinks into your bones, slows your racing heart and whispers that the world doesn't need your haste, it needs your stillness. Picture them there, side by side, Chopra's energy a flickering flame, the Dalai Lama's calm a steady glow, and feel the air between them shift, thick with the promise of what they've found. Chopra might lean back, exhaling as if unburdening himself, saying, "We've measured it. Blood pressure drops, inflammation fades, it's cellular, Your Holiness." The Dalai Lama might chuckle, a sound like pebbles tumbling in a stream, and reply, "And we've lived it. Anger softens, joy grows. It's human." What power lies in that shared truth? I wonder, my breath catching, could I sit in silence and feel my own edges dissolve, my own fears fade like shadows at noon? As Thich Nhat Hanh once said, The miracle is not to walk on water. The miracle is to walk on the green earth, dwelling deeply in the present moment. Their dialogue is that miracle, unfolding breath by breath, a quiet earthquake that shakes the world not with noise but with stillness, a stillness so potent it could crack open the hardest heart, mine included, and let something new bloom there. Oh, I want to listen forever, don't you? To let their song guide me to that green earth, step by trembling step. Compassion, it's not just a word here, it's their heartbeat, a steady thrum that pulses through every glance, every syllable they share. It's their glue, a sticky, golden bond that holds their disparate worlds, Chopra's cosmic leaps, the Dalai Lama's grounded grace, together in a harmony that feels both fragile and unbreakable. It's their gospel, a sacred song they preach not with dogma, but with the quiet fire of lived truth. The Dalai Lama, his presence soft as a whisper, yet fierce as a lion guarding its pride, lifts his voice, and oh, it lands like a stone in still water, rippling outward with an authority earned through decades of loss and love. It's our essence, he says, his tone a blend of velvet and iron. Love, not hate. Science proves it. Look at the studies, the brain lighting up with kindness. Life demands it. Look at the world crying for it. His words aren't a plea. They're a proclamation, a banner unfurled against a sky heavy with division, and you can feel the heat of that conviction warming the air, urging you to lean closer, to listen harder. Chopra echoes him, his voice rising like a tide, rich with a poetic fervor that's carried him from operating rooms to the edges of eternity. It's the fabric of the cosmos, he declares, his eyes alight with a vision so vast it could swallow galaxies whole. He's quipped before, oh, that clever, playful line, the only way to get it together is to get together. And here they are, side by side, plotting kindness as nothing less than a revolution, a wildfire of care that could sweep through the ashes of our brokenness and leave something green in its wake. What if every gentle word I spoke rippled outward forever? I wonder, my heart catching on the thought, imagine it, a murmured, I'm here, to a stranger, a soft, you're enough to a friend, traveling beyond me, beyond time, stitching the torn seams of the world back together. Their dialogue plants that seed, doesn't it? A fragile, fierce hope that kindness isn't just a gesture, but a force, a thread that binds us to each other, to the stars, to the very pulse of existence. Imagine them dreaming aloud now, their voices weaving a vision so vivid you can almost step into it. Chopra's hands sweep wide, painting a picture in the air, a world meditating as one, millions of breaths sinking like a single heartbeat, a global exhale that washes away the noise of hate. Imagine cities pausing, he might say, his tone bright with possibility, streets falling silent, people closing their eyes together, feeling the unity beneath our skins. Compassion could be our air. His words shimmer, a modern hymn, sung to a planet aching for stillness. The Dalai Lama listens, his head tilted, his smile a quiet crescent moon, then adds his own brush stroke, his voice low and steady, resonant as a bell tolling through mountain mist. Start with children, he might say, his hands folding gently, as if cradling the future itself. Teach them warm-heartedness. Let them grow up knowing love as their root, not fear. That's where it begins. Chopra nods, his grin widening. Shift the culture, he might add, his energy sparking against the Dalai Lama's calm. Let kindness be our legacy, not just our dream. Could we really build a world where love wins? I'm trembling with the thought. What would it take to plant that seed in my own corner of the earth, to water it with my own shaky hands? Their 2019 exchange might have turned playful here. A lightness, breaking through the weight like sunlight piercing clouds. Chopra, ever curious, leans in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. How do we spread this, Your Holiness? How do we make it catch? The Dalai Lama laughs. Oh, that laugh! A sound like pebbles tumbling in a clear stream, bright and free, spilling over the room and lifting everything it touches. Be happy, he says, his eyes twinkling with a mischief that belies his years. Happy people don't hurt others. They shine. They share. Chopra grins, a flash of delight crossing his face, and fires back, quick as a spark. And healthy ones don't either. Peace in the body fuels peace in the soul. It's light, almost a game, their voices bouncing like children tossing a ball, yet it's profound. Isn't joy the deepest rebellion against despair? I can see them now, Chopra's shoulders shaking with amusement, the Dalai Lama's laughter echoing off the walls, and it hits me. This isn't just talk, it's a blueprint, a map drawn in giggles and grins, showing us that compassion doesn't have to be heavy to heal. Their exchange lingers, a warmth that settles into your bones, and Lao Tzu's words drift in like a breeze through an open window. Being deeply loved gives you strength. Loving deeply gives you courage. Their dialogue is that strength, that courage, a beacon flung wide, its light spilling across continents, across hearts for us to grasp if we dare. I feel it glowing there, don't you? A flame they've tended together, Chopra stoking it, with his cosmic dreams, the Dalai Lama feeding it with his earthen wisdom. It's not just their gospel, it's ours, a call to weave our own threads of kindness into the fabric they've begun. What if I took that thread today, I muse, my chest tight with longing, a smile to a stranger, a hand to a friend. Could it ripple out and bind me to them, to this moment, forever? Oh, their compassion isn't static. It's alive, breathing, pulling us in with every laugh, every word, daring us to join the revolution they've already started. I can't stay detached. This hits too close, too hard, like a fist against the fragile walls I've built around myself. It's not some distant lecture I can nod at and shelve. It's a blade, sharp and gleaming, slicing through the haze I've wrapped my days in, cutting straight to the quick of me. Chopra's wild leaps make me gasp. Each one a gust of wind that rattles my windows, threatens to fling them wide open. Am I brave enough to see beyond my tiny life? He's out there, bold as a comet, claiming the universe is conscious, alive with intent, and part of me, oh, that restless, reckless part, screams, yes, I've felt it. I've known it in fleeting, electric moments. That hum when I stare at the stars, their cold light pulsing as if they're whispering secrets just for me. That jolt when I hug someone tight, skin against skin, and feel a current that's more than flesh, more than time. It's like the universe is reaching back, brushing my fingertips, and Chopra's voice amplifies it, dares me to grab hold. What if I did? I wonder, my breath hitching. What if I stopped shrinking myself into this small, safe box and let that hum flood every corner of me? Then the Dalai Lama steps in, steady as dawn breaking over a restless night, and I'm humbled. Oh, how I'm humbled! His presence isn't loud. It's a quiet tide, lapping at my edges, eroding the jagged cliffs I've clung to. Why do I cling to my petty hurts when letting go could lift me? His words, his calm, they're a mirror I can't look away from, reflecting every grudge I've nursed like a wound, every slight I've polished into a stone I carry in my pocket. He doesn't scold, he just stands there, solid and serene, and I feel the weight of my own baggage dragging me down. His quiet power shakes me awake. Have I been sleepwalking through my own heart? I see it now, clear as morning. The times I've drifted through days, eyes half open, letting resentment steer me when love was waiting, patient and unclaimed. He's not asking me to be perfect, just awake, and oh, that simple call cracked something open inside me, a fault line I didn't know was there. Could I drop these stones, step into that dawn, and rise lighter than I've ever been? Their differences dazzle me. sparkling like light off a prism, splitting my thoughts into 1,000 colors. Chopra's a poet, splashing reality with stardust. Every word a flare, every idea a burst of glitter flung against the dark, daring me to see the world as a canvas of wonder. The Dalai Lama's a sculptor, chiseling truth with patience, his hands steady, his gaze fixed, carving meaning from the raw rock of existence with a care that feels eternal. Yet they meet. Two rivers, one wild and rushing, the other deep and still, pouring into one sea, their currents blending into something I can't name but ache to touch. Isn't that us too? Wild and calm, lost and found? I see myself in them. The part that yearns to leap, to chase the horizon, and the part that longs to sit, to sink into the quiet and let it hold me. Nietzsche's line rings through me, a bell, tolling in my chest. You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star. Their talks stir that chaos in me, a glorious mess, fears and dreams tangled like vines, begging to unfurl, to dance, to break into light. Don't you feel it? A pull toward something vast, untamed, alive? It's a tide tugging at my ankles, a wind whistling through my ribs, and I'm trembling on the edge of it, aren't you? Caught between falling in and holding back. I imagine them turning to me, us, right here, right now, their voices cutting through the static of my mind. Chopra's eyes might blaze, twin flames searing through my doubt. Dream bigger, he'd say, his tone a spark that could ignite a forest, urging me to stretch beyond the edges I've drawn, to paint my life with strokes I've never dared. The Dalai Lamas might soften, pools of mercy I could drown in. Love simpler, he'd murmur, his voice a balm that soothes the burns of my own striving, calling me to strip away the clutter and find the pulse beneath. Which do I choose? Both? Neither? I'm a tangle of awe and doubt, threads knotted tight, Chopra's fire pulling me up, the Dalai Lama's calm pressing me down, and I'm caught in the tension, swaying like a reed in a storm. What if I can't choose? I wonder, my throat tight. What if I meant to hold both, to let them wrestle inside me until something new is born? Maybe that's the point. Not to resolve it, not to pick a side, but to wrestle with myself until I break free, until the tangle unravels into a thread I can follow. Their reflections cut deep, don't they? A mirror I didn't ask for, but can't turn away from. Chopra's wildness makes me ache for courage I've buried, for nights I've spent staring at ceilings when I could have been chasing stars. The Dalai Lama's steadiness makes me mourn the peace I've traded for pride, the quiet I've drowned in noise. Who am I in this mirror? I ask, my hands trembling. A dreamer too scared to leap, a sleeper too stubborn to wake. Their talks don't just stir me, they shake me, rattle the cage I've locked myself in, and oh, I feel the bars bending, the chaos rising, the star waiting to dance. What will I do with this reflection? I'm not sure. Part of me wants to run toward it, part of me wants to hide, but it's there, sharp and shining, daring me to look longer, to step closer, to claim whatever wild, messy truth it holds. This isn't abstract. Oh no, it's not some dusty theory floating above me out of reach. It's a lifeline, taut and trembling in my hands, a rope thrown across the churning waters of my days, begging me to grab hold and pull myself toward shore. It's a map, inked with the sweat and wisdom of two souls who've walked paths I can barely imagine, guiding me through the wilds of my own existence. It's a mirror, polished and unrelenting, forcing me to face the shadows I've dodged, the light I've ignored. What heals us? Chopra's inflammation talk, those urgent words about anger eating us alive, pairs with the Dalai Lama's mental fitness, his calm insistence that peace starts within. Together, they're shouting, a chorus that echoes off the walls of my skull. Tend your soul, and your body sings. Oh, I'm floored, flat on my back staring up at the ceiling of my life. Am I feeding my spirit, or just my shell? I think of the days I've spent polishing the surface, eating right, dressing well, chasing the mirror's approval, while my soul starves, a hollow ache I've ignored too long. Their voices burn through that haze, searing away the excuses, leaving me raw and reeling. Could I water my roots instead of just my skin, and hear my own song rise? They dig deeper, oh, so much deeper, plunging into the marrow of what holds us together. What unites us? Compassion, they chorus, their voices blending like a wind through trees. One fierce and wild, the other soft and steady. And I feel it. Oh, I feel it. A thread spun from their lips to my chest, warm as a hand pressed there, fierce as a flame that won't flicker out. It's not just a word. It's a lifeline stitching me to them, to you, to every stranger I've passed without seeing. Could kindness be my sword against a cold, jagged world? I see it in my mind's eye. A blade forged not of steel, but of care. Sharp enough to cut through the ice of indifference. Strong enough to parry the blows of a life that's too often cruel. Chopra's cosmic compassion. The Dalai Lama's earthy love. They hand me this weapon, don't they? And I'm trembling with the weight of it, wondering if my hands are steady enough to wield it, if my heart's brave enough to strike. What would it look like to swing that sword today, to slash through my own cynicism and let warmth bleed out instead? Their humor, oh, that nose rub, teaches too, a lesson so light it floats yet so profound it anchors me. Wisdom doesn't crush, it lifts, a breeze that buoys you when you're sinking. The Dalai Lama's giggles, those bright, tumbling peals that spill like water over stones, dance with Chopra's playful awe, his wide-eyed delight at the universe's quirks. Together, they're a melody that shakes me loose from my heaviness. Why do I lug life like a burden when joy's the real guru? I see myself trudging along, shoulders bowed under a load I've chosen, worries I've strapped on, frowns I've worn like armor, when all along their laughter's been there, a lantern swinging in the dark, showing me I could set it down. Their laughter's a philosophy all its own. Live light, love bold, a creed whispered in every chuckle, every shared grin. Khalil Gibran's voice drifts in here, soft as a friend leaning close. In the sweetness of friendship let there be laughter and sharing of pleasures. That's their gift, isn't it? A bond that spills over, a river bursting its banks, pulling us into its glow with every ripple. I'm caught in that current. Could I laugh like that? Let joy lift me instead of dragging myself through the mud? And oh, how I want to dive in, to let their lightness soak into me until I shine too. And time, oh, how they bend it, twist it, play with it like clay in their hands. Chopra might muse, his voice dipping into a dreamy cadence. We're eternal, beyond clocks, beyond the tick-tock that cages us. He's gazing past the room, past the mountains into a vastness where seconds dissolve and we're all just echoes of forever. The Dalai Lama might nod, his eyes crinkling with a knowing that spans lifetimes. Yet this moment's all we have, he'd say, his tone grounding us back to the breath we're taking right now, the heartbeat drumming in our chests. Isn't that the riddle? Forever in the now? I'm spinning, caught in a whirl where eternity brushes against the fleeting, where the infinite presses against my fingertips yet slips away with every tick. How do I hold both truths without cracking? Chopra's eternity pulls me upward, a kite soaring into boundless sky. The Dalai Lama's now tugs me down, rooting me in the dirt beneath my feet, and I'm stretched between them, a string taut, with longing, trembling with the strain. Their dialogue doesn't solve it. Oh no, it's too wise for that. It dares me to live it, to dance on that tightrope without falling, to embrace the paradox until it becomes my own. What if I stopped chasing time and just stood in it, eternal, and fleeting all at once? I'm dizzy with the dare, aren't you? Aching to weave their lessons into my own threadbare life, to let them burn and soothe me until I'm whole. Let's dream a scene Another meeting, undated, unrecorded, but alive in their spirits. They're on a balcony, sun dipping low, mountains blushing gold. Chopra starts, voice low. Your Holiness, I've been thinking. Space, time, matter, they're illusions. Consciousness is all. The Dalai Lama sips tea, eyes dancing. Illusions. Yes, but useful ones, like a dream. We live it, but we can wake. Chopra laughs. So we're dreaming together. Always, the Dalai Lama replies, but let's dream kindly. They turn to suffering. People ache, Chopra says. Can science ease it? The Dalai Lama nods. Science shows the way. Compassion walks it. What if every lab and every prayer aimed for that? They trade stories. Chopra of a patient healed by hope, the Dalai Lama of a monk finding peace in prison. Isn't suffering the soil where grace grows? I'm weeping inside, aren't you? Because their words aren't distant. They're here, stitching my own wounds. Their dialogues don't sit. They thunder, they sing, they beckon. Streamed in. 2019, etched in books, they cry, wake up, heal, unite. Chopra's cosmic hope, the Dalai Lama's grounded grace, they're not sparring, they're building. Will I pick up their hammer, their thread? I feel the weight, the thrill, don't you, of being summoned to act, to live wider, to love fiercer. They've left footprints, Chopra's wellness empire, the Dalai Lama's secular ethics push. But it's more. It's a fire in the dark, a whisper in the storm. What will I do with this light, this sound? Their talks aren't a conclusion, they're a beginning, a shove toward my own edge. Deepak Chopra and the Dalai Lama. Two voices, one eternal hymn. Their dialogues are wildfire and water, chaos and calm, a quest for who are we? How do we mend? From nose rubs to cosmic riddles, they fuse science and spirit not to win, but to illuminate. I'm breathless, alive, asking, what's my note in this vast symphony? Chopra might say, we're the universe knowing itself, and the Dalai Lama might add, with a warm heart, all is possible. Together they murmur, live the mystery, be the flame. Isn't that the wildest, most glorious dare we could ever chase? Let's run toward it, together.